You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This is episode 151 of Wisdom by Wessa Show on the Horse Radio Network. This is Jennifer Hebert.
I'm Morgan Nicole.
And this is Sophia Yagela. Welcome to Wisdom by Wessa on the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
This podcast is brought to you by WESA, the Western and English Sales Association, which provides the world's largest trade events for retailers, manufacturers, and sales representatives of the equestrian industry. In this podcast, we feature exclusive interviews and with noteworthy Western English personalities, retailers, and exhibitors who you've always wanted to talk to.
Yes, you heard that right. We have two new voices on the podcast. Jennifer and Morgan are the new Wisdom by Wessa co-hosts. Why don't you quickly introduce yourselves?
Hi there, I'm Morgan Nicole. I'm a Western fashion content creator and outdoor lifestyle content creator based out of Texas.
Dun, da, da. And my name is Jennifer Hebert. I am a longtime podcaster and horse gal, and I hail from Ocala, Florida.
Welcome to the team. We're so glad to have you both. Now let's start with today's guest.
Shawn Wiese is the founder of VEXIL, a Western lifestyle brand with roots in professional bull riding and a mission to serve the gritty, authentic spirit of the Western community. With a background as a pro athlete and talent agent, Shawn brings a fresh perspective to building a brand that resonates at the grassroots level while scaling in the retail space. In this episode, he shares how VEXIL connects storytelling, culture, and consumer loyalty. Welcome to the show, Shawn.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. It's so great to be able to chat with you today and hear more just about, the faces behind the brand and, again, your grassroots. So we will kind of jump into the origin of VEXIL. Tell us how your experience as a professional bull rider and an agent shaped the core values behind the VEXIL brand.
Well, obviously we're Western lifestyle brand. So I've lived a life my whole life. So it's nothing new. When I decided to create this brand, I knew I wanted to base it off of my passions and obviously my expertise. It just makes life a little bit easier when you're building something that you know a lot about. So yeah, it has everything to do with how VEXIL was founded, my background from, growing up on a farming and ranching family to, becoming a bull rider and riding on the professional level to, becoming an agent for professional bull riders. I've been living in the culture from day one.
Yes. It definitely makes a brand stand out, like you said, when the roots are founded in that culture, and what a blessing it was for you to grow up in this industry and really see what has shaped the industry and maybe what it has and what it's lacking. I know we'll get into this a little bit later on, but even your Monday motivation, this is an industry where it feeds off of that cowboy courage, right? The motivation, the upbringing, the, hey, let me put my hand down and pull you back up. So I really love that. How long were you in professional bull riding?
Professional level, I rode 13 years. I rode bulls a total of 15 years and pro rodeoed for 13 years. So I've seen this country from coast to coast and Canada and Mexico. And so I'm very thankful for that life I got to live, at a young age. I wouldn't trade it for the world. Obviously hindsight looking, I don't know who that person was because I think he was a little bit crazy. Because I would not get on a bull at my age now, but you only live once, so you got to take advantage of your bravery at a young age, I'd say.
Right. I'm sure along the way you made so many incredible memories and laughs, definitely that you'll have in your back pocket for the rest of your life. While you were out there, really cultivating those friendships and those just relationships in the industry, what did you feel like was missing in the market? And how did you kind of fill that with VEXIL?
I don't think I created VEXIL because there was something missing in the culture. I created it because I wanted to add to it, because I can't stress enough on, the Western culture really it's a small family when you think about it, from rodeo to ranching. I think you can meet somebody in the industry and they, in some degree, feel like family, right? Because they're living the lifestyle that you're living, and they have the same passions you have. And I think we have people who grow up, in the city and live that lifestyle, which there's nothing wrong with, right? They really don't understand, the Western culture, right? And they don't understand what goes on a day-to-day basis in this culture. And I've seen it firsthand from, being an agent. I've gone to, the PBR in New York City multiple times, and just seeing how those people who are living that lifestyle interact with, cowboys. It's a very cool experience, right? It goes both ways, right? I'm, the times I've gone to New York City, I am just in awe that there's this lifestyle out there being lived that I know nothing about, but I'm intrigued by it, right? Because I don't want to stay there very long, right? I'll go to, when I go to, I've gone to New York City, it's, been 3 to 4 days at a time, and I'm ready to get back home and get my boots put on some dirt after that. But while I'm there, I soak it all in because it's so unique. And I think that's the same way with the Western culture, right? I think people that don't live the lifestyle, that didn't grow up in the lifestyle, look at it in awe, right? They're kind of like, man, people live like this, that's cool, right? And you can see it when Hollywood takes a grip of the cowboy culture. It typically does well, right? Obviously with the Yellowstone series, it took off because I think people that aren't living this lifestyle on a day-to-day basis, they want to learn more. They want to, they kind of dream that they could, they wish they could live the lifestyle. So, that's what I love about the Western lifestyle is I talked to somebody a while back about it's been a couple years ago, but he was talking to me about the Yellowstone. The cowboy culture is growing. I'm like, in reality, cowboys are cowboys 24/7. Whether there's a Hollywood show on TV about it or whether there's not, cowboys are always being cowboys, and the Western culture is alive and well, regardless if it's being put in a limelight or not. It is what it is, and I think that's the cool thing about it. When you live in it, you know that fact, right? If you don't live in it, you may not know that, right? You figure, well, if it's not on TV, it must be dead. Well, it's never dead, and I don't think it's ever going to die.
Yes. No, I think you're so right. We are in the perfect spot for being in the Western industry and inviting, newcomers in, because those newcomers are going to help the generations to grow, right? And really making sure that we ingrain that lifestyle into, our children, the newcomers, to really continue that line. And I love what you said about it's never dead. Even in the small towns and in the rural areas, the cowboys are still being cowboys, and they're gritty, they're blue collar. How does that really, translate into your designs and product drops? Tell me a little bit about how you are bringing that lifestyle into the actual product.
Yeah, and that's one of my favorite parts about our brand is, I actually design everything. I'm not only the owner, I'm the designer of all of our products. So, and I obviously tap into living the culture from day one. I talk the language, right? So yeah, it definitely incorporates into our designs. We have a line of caps based on American Rancher, and those are very, very successful for us, because I think, people in this culture, they, even if they're not a rancher, right, maybe they're a farmer, or maybe they're just a blue collar worker, they respect the American ranching lifestyle, right? They understand that, when they grill a steak up on the weekends, that somebody had to put some sweat and blood into that to make that happen. And so that line of caps is really just our tip of the hat, per se, to the American rancher and those out there living it every day, providing us with quality food. I own a few cows myself, but I don't consider myself a rancher. There's people out there doing it day in and day out that are the true heroes when it comes to American ranching. And then we tap into some rodeo themed stuff, just general Western stuff. I feel like I've got a pretty good finger on the pulse of the culture. So, a lot of the stuff that we put out there is successful because of my knowledge of the culture. So, we don't bat 1,000, right? Sometimes we put out designs that, they don't work as well as I thought they should. But for the most part, we've been in business now. It'll be almost 11 years. So obviously we're doing something right in connecting with that audience with our designs.
Definitely. It's been 11 strong years. And I have been, so honored to even be a part of that a few years back. And what you were talking about through the designs, whether it was the ranching or the outdoors, you have something for everyone, because in our industry, everyone has different strong suits. And I can testify as well with having multiple VEXIL hats in my closet, multiple t-shirts. When you put that on, you walk differently, and definitely your storyline, but your background carries through the quality of the product. I know I have this one dadgum green VEXIL t-shirt that sucker will be around for another 20 years. I love it, and it's worn, it's loved, but the quality, and even down, to a marketing perspective of the fonts, you are showing the grit and the courage and the authenticity through your designs, which, I really love. Talking about, building a brand just in the Western space, what do you feel like has been a few key turning points in growing VEXIL?
Well, I think it's exactly what we've talked about, right? I'm not somebody that, it just decided to create a brand and had no experience in the culture. Like I said, I sound like a broken record, but this culture has been my life. And so I know what the culture is about. So obviously I design accordingly to that, and people who are in the culture as well, they can relate to our products because they're on point in regards to culture. So that's been a huge part of us, being successful. Obviously the quality product is just a staple, that's got to happen. Right. But you put designs that resonate with the culture on top of quality product, and it's a recipe for success, obviously. So, I think it's just, it all stems back to me just designing towards my passion. It's an easy job for me, because I've not only lived it, I am passionate about the lifestyle. So it's just helps me to put out more designs that are really going to resonate with the customer.
Yes, I love what you said about, it's kind of that mindset, an athlete, they either got it or they don't got it, right? You have the heart or you don't. You have the background or you don't. So it sounds like you have an incredible kind of toolbox just for endless opportunities with the VEXIL brand. And speaking of, athletes, how is your background with those sponsorships and your PR background? How are you applying some of those same marketing strategies to elevate VEXIL?
Well, I I learned a lot. I've been an agent for 23 years for professional bull riders, and then I represented a few rodeo athletes along the way, Fallon Taylor and Tuff Cooper. Really, the experience I've gained from that business is I've gotten a front row seat to big major brands. I've worked with Yeti Coolers, Monster Energy, Wrangler, Levi's, some of these big brands, multi-billion-dollar brands. And so I've got a front row seat on how they do things, right? So it's really, I went to the school of branding through some of those relationships that I had with my agency. And I really, I tried to pay attention, right? Okay, what are these brands doing that are elevating the brand to another level? And so I've taken that knowledge and tried to apply that to VEXIL as much as possible. So I've been very blessed to be in some rooms that not the average or the public is not allowed in, right? When it comes to branding and what goes on behind some of these, big brands.
Yes. I mean, what a honor and a privilege it was to learn, from the best, and, to roll with the big dogs is definitely something that teaches you a lot. Speaking of, paying attention and really grasping things, I personally am a firm believer in you pay attention and then you pay it forward, right? And helping the next person that the Lord puts in your path. Tell me about this Monday motivation. I personally absolutely love it. I think motivation is key in an industry that's always go, go, go. So tell me kind of where the Monday motivation stemmed from, and where you come up with what you're saying for that week.
I don't know. I've always been a positive person, and I think I didn't create this brand. This whole world is wrapped around money, right? And that's not how I operate. I try to focus more on people, if I can touch somebody's life, whether it be personally or through VEXIL, that's the goal, right? I count that as a success. So, I just made a decision at the beginning that when I created this brand, I was going to utilize it to try to touch people, right? Whether just through a cool design that they really like our brand, touch their passion, right? And touch them in that way. Or, I came up with this Monday motivation to, if somebody can get something out of that 15-second Monday motivation that I do, and even if one person, right, that's kind of my goal. If it touches one person and it helps them in their journey in life, then it's worth me doing it. Really that's just the goal, is to help one person at a time. As far as content, where I come up with it, it's basically I'm talking to myself, to be honest with you. And that's how I started it, is, you're always having these internal conversations with yourself. And like I say, for the most part, I'm a pretty positive person, but I've got to work through things from time to time. And, I just decided, what, I don't know if it will help somebody, but I might as well say it out loud. And if it helps, like I said, if it helps one person, it's worth me saying it out loud. So really, the content comes from me talking to myself. It's an internal conversation that I'm just speaking out loud.
Yes, with my page as being an influencer and a content creator and speaking motivation, I found the same thing too that you said. You speak to yourself, because this life is going to have the highs and the lows, right? The valleys and then the peaks. But definitely the standpoint of, hey, if this helps one person, or if it doesn't even help one person, but it helps me stay accountable to, to thinking positively and thinking of what's next, that's what it's all about. In a market that's so oversaturated, you have to stand out. And I think VEXIL definitely does, in the best way of helping people join the industry, really stay in the industry and feel encouraged. And kind of wrapping it up here, I would love to touch quickly on the future of VEXIL. What are you most excited for with VEXIL and expansion, or what's kind of on the horizon for you?
Well, I mean, this podcast right here, I'm pretty excited about that. We started off, we're 11 years old, and we've primarily been a direct-to-consumer brand. And I did that on purpose. I wanted to, just go to direct to the consumer and build the brand right before I took it anywhere else. And, we only started doing wholesale the last year and a half. I take that back. We started for a few months and then COVID hit and then I shut it back down because it was bad timing. Right. So, but about a year and a half ago, we started offering it wholesale and we've got quite a few stores now and, partnering with WESA and going to our first WESA show in August. I'm excited about that because I think that the brand's ready to be, taken to retail. Like I said, it's already in stores now, but not at the level that I want it to be. And I think that's the cool thing about our brand. If you're a buyer listening to this, we're not a new brand, so it's not like we're just getting into the retail market or wholesale market. We've got 11 years under our belt, and I think the cool thing about that is most people that follow our brand across the nation, they have to go to our website to buy our product. So I think it'll be really cool when they walk into their local Western store and see our caps on a shelf. I think it'll be a cool experience for them because they haven't had that opportunity yet for the most part. And so I think for stores, they're really going to see the impact of bringing in a brand that's it may be kind of new, to the retail space, but really it's not new. We're an established brand. So I'm pretty excited about that just to see the success we can have with partnering with retail stores with our brand and, hopefully growing that with expanding our product line down the road.
Yes. Well, what an exciting new chapter ahead with VEXIL. And, definitely this wholesale venture is going to be huge. Getting to be a part of other small businesses' stories and local dealers' stories is going to be so impactful. And, people who are wearing VEXIL can walk in with their buddy and say, hey, you need this cap off the shelf. So I'm really excited to see where you're going to go. I know it's going to be huge and so grateful that you spent the time with us this morning, and we cannot wait to cheer you on at your upcoming shows.
All right. I appreciate y'all having me.
Most definitely. Thank you, Shawn. Links from today's shows are in the episode show notes and at wisdombywesa.com. Subscribe to Wisdom by Wesa on Apple Music, Spotify, or any podcast player, and don't miss out on all the news for manufacturers and retailers in the equine industry. The Wisdom by Wesa show will be published on the 15th and 30th of every month.